Hey everyone, welcome to the Dram Amateur Podcast, your go-to show for everything bourbon, whiskey, rum, tequila, mezcal, and beyond. I'm your host, Jason. Join me as I journey and explore the world of alcoholic spirits. Let's get started. All right, welcome back to the Dram Amateur Podcast, the show where we explore the stories, spirits, and sips that make the world of whiskey, bourbon, rum, tequila, and mezcal so exciting. I'm your host, Jason, and I'm thrilled to have you here for another pour of a great conversation. Before we dive in, don't forget to connect with me on Instagram at Dram_Amateur, as well as YouTube and Facebook under the Dram Amateur Podcast to stay in the loop with exclusive content and updates. Whether you're a seasoned enthusiast or just starting your journey into the world of fine spirits, this is your spot to sip, learn, and share. So pour yourself something good, get comfortable, and let's kick off another unforgettable episode of the Dram Amateur Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is someone who isn't just making tequila, he's resurrecting it. From deep in the heart of Jalisco, where red soil and legacy run thick, comes a brand that's rewriting how we think about agave, one bottle at a time. Joining me today is the man behind the mystery, the myth, and the lore, Arturo Lamas, founder of Lost Lore Tequila. Now, this isn't your average, hey, let's start a tequila brand because it's trendy story. Arturo's journey dives into family heritage, forgotten recipe, and a relentless obsession with storytelling through spirit. So whether you're sipping neat, mixing cocktails, or just here for a good story, get ready because this episode is about legacy, rebellion, and the magic that happens when tradition meets bold vision. Let's raise a glass and welcome to the show, Arturo Lamas of Lost Lore Tequila. Arturo, nice to have you in the podcast. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, nice to be here, Jason. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to talk all things Lost Lore.
Awesome, very good. Well, let's start with the softball question. Tell me how this whole thing got started and how you started the Lost Lore brand and the history behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my family has been involved in agave spirits since the 1920s. This is a tradition that my great-grandfather started in Huitzila, Zacatecas, Mexico. He was a distiller, and it was a tradition that was passed down to my grandfather and then to my father. And in the 1970s, my father moved to the U.S. for the American dream. He was a migrant farm worker, and he also worked in a factory. But he lived in California for a short period of time. He lived in Florida for a period of time as well, picking oranges with my mom, and then picked produce in the Chicagoland area, and worked for a factory there. And that's where I was born. So, when I was a kid, I always hear my dad talk about agave spirits and distilling. Something that he would talk to his dad about and his brothers and sisters. So something that really intrigued me because, I want to be like dad, right? So I knew at some point in my life, I would try to bring this tradition back, as a tribute to him and my mom. So I went to school, went into some different industries, and, I still kind of had that itch to bring this whole project back. And this is something that my wife knew as well. So my wife, Sarah, she's very involved with Lost Lore, and she was the one that kind of really pushed it, like, hey, you should do it. And I'm happy she did at that time because this is 2021 and, we have 4 kids, we have our careers, we're super, super busy. So we knew that if we didn't do it right then and there, it probably wasn't going to happen. So I went to my father and, told him about the whole project, and my dad's retired, but he wasn't really excited about the project, but it's pretty persistent with asking them, hey, we want you to be a part of it because, he's the one that's got all the experience and expertise, being a distiller, in the 60s and 70s. So he eventually came on for the ride, and we went to Jalisco and went to the Highlands, and we teamed up with the Vivanco family, a really great family, and Lost Lore Tequila was born.
That's fantastic. Hey, shout out to the wives, first of all, that make our lives it push us and make our lives amazing. Like, I know I wouldn't be anywhere without mine. And sounds like you guys are a team, right? That's awesome. That's really cool.
We are. We're a team, but she's the boss. So she just
happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. So that's cool that your dad like eventually came on to the, turned around and was like, hey, okay, cool. We'll help you with this and I'll help you kind of, support you and everything with that too. That's really cool. Did your dad's dad, like your great grandfather, you said he distilled back in the 20s, you were saying?
So yeah, my great grandfather distilled in the 20s, and then my grandfather was distilling, like more like in the 40s and 50s. And my dad was 60s and some of the 70s. So we've been doing it for a long time, and my family still distills. They're agave spirits or mezcal, but we're spirits.
Man, that's really cool. That's awesome. I think the one thing that I've really appreciated about getting into agave spirits, tequila, mezcal, anything like that has been the community, the history, the family connection with all of it as well. Right. It's really, really cool. I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts, and I was always had a tight family, holidays and all that kind of stuff. So I knew, and we always talked about great grandparents and great aunts and great uncles. So like the family aspect of that's really cool. And I really take to this part of it too. And I've seen it. I go to Mexico City for work a lot. And I see the family connection, both, to their own families, just the family connection, even between my team members, like the people that all work together. And then even when I come down, I feel like I'm just part of the family, which is the coolest thing ever. It really is. A lot of respect for that.
That's great. Yeah. Mexico has got such a great culture, and, it revolves around family. So, we're very blessed to kind of have this tradition in our family. And we go and we meet a lot of people in the industry, and that's what it feels like. It feels like we're just we're part of the team, we're part of the group. Like, specifically, for example, like NOM 1414, they treated us like family from day one. The Vanco family, Sergio Cruz, the whole team. So yeah, it's kind of embedded in the culture.
No, that's awesome. That's really cool. That's fantastic. What was the first moment, whether it was a smell or story or sip, that made you realize this tequila thing wasn't just a family memory, but it was something you really wanted to lean into and take those next steps to make it your future?
Yeah, we knew we had this tradition, growing up, and it's something that I would talk to my dad about a lot too. And I went into different industries. I went into the furniture industry and the beer industry, but again, like, we knew it was there. So I started taking a deep dive into just tequila and agave spirits in general, and just really understanding the ingredients and process, and tasting so many different tequilas to kind of figure out, all right, what do we want to be? What do we want to do? And of course, my dad was the one who really helped with our profile, and, being the person working with Sergio Vivanco, and this is what we want, this is what we don't want, all that fun stuff. But, we started taking a deep dive into just really high quality tequilas, including, Fortaleza, some stuff from Cascawin, whether it was Cascawin or a brand they work with, or, anything from the Highland, the Camarena family, G4, stuff coming out of Bandillo, Tapatio, other stuff, other brands from the Camarena. So, it was kind of drinking all that and, understanding that, like, hey, this is what tequila should be, right? And I've drank it all, and I'm not here to knock, a cheaper tequila or anything along those lines. But, I knew at that point that, that's what tequila was meant to be. And that's how it was supposed to be expressed. And, something that was really high quality, that focused on 3 ingredients: agave, water, and yeast.
That's awesome. Now, and love to hear like you said, the transparency, agave, water, and yeast. Nowadays, transparency is a key thing, because you don't know sometimes what you're getting by some of the brands. So, and I think a lot of consumers out there are looking for that transparency as well. And I know you guys make a high quality tequila, so that's really cool to even hear you say that as well. So that's really cool. What part of yourself did you not expect to uncover or confront while you're bringing Lost Lore back to life?
Yeah, I mean, there was so many hurdles. It's the whole idea and the genesis of this is, to bring tradition back, right, and to come up with a really high quality tequila that that we're going to enjoy and the consumer's going to enjoy. But I think that what really threw us off was just how much work you had to put into everything. It's like making tequila. Tequila is part of it, and that's a challenge in itself. But just having a really good understanding of kind of like the 3-tier system here in the United States, and how are we going to get it in here, and once we get it here and work with the importer, who are we going to work with as far as states go and distributors, and and it doesn't stop there. You have to work with accounts and support them, and I just really, I knew that it was something that we had to do. I didn't understand at that point how involved it would be and how much work. And, we do our own self-importing now, and, now understanding like all the compliance that needs to be done state to state. And, thank God for Sarah, because she handles all that, because I don't think I'd be able to call state to state and talk to government workers. We love them, but she's got the patience for it. I don't. So yeah, it's just, kind of looking at all of that, kind of, the paperwork and, the marketing side too. And I kind of handle the marketing for Lost Lore, and, it's a ton of work, man. We want, our consumers to get value from, what we're trying to put out there. And, that's difficult to do, multiple times a week. So, I think that everything is just kind of, coming together, and you look at this whole thing, and it's a ton of work, but it's totally worth it.
That's cool. Yeah. One of the things that I've realized lately in talking to a lot of people has been like I hate to say the hustle, but like the blood, sweat, and tears, like literally that you guys put into this, and how difficult it is to really get into the market, right? I've talked to a couple of people that are like, yeah, we walked around with like cases of product and was like, hey, do you want this? We're self-delivering product to stores and restaurants and things like that. And I have a crazy respect for that, because if you think about it, right, you would think that, okay, cool, we get it. It's bottled, it gets shipped, it sits in a warehouse somewhere, it gets put in a shelf on a store or something like that. And it's really not like that. Like you said, it takes a lot of like government discussions and how to get it in and understand a distribution network. What did the early days look like for you guys with that? Did you have connections in the industry that helped you out with that stuff? Or was it all like trial and error with trying to figure out how to get distributed through the
a little bit. I come from the beer industry, so I had a good understanding of the 3-tier system, but beer distributors and spirit distributors are completely different. So we couldn't really go and use any beer distributor. We had to kind of start new and find these wine and spirit distributors, because that's what their focus is. It's not beer, it's wine and spirits, and it's kind of crazy how it's separate like that, but that's kind of what happens state to state. So, we just started knocking on some doors, and, it wasn't easy, man, because there's a lot of tequila brands that are coming out there, and, we just had to really figure out how we're going to pitch ourselves and like what makes Lost Lore. I feel like we're a unique brand. The tequila is what it revolves around. Like, first, you got to have good tequila. If you don't, what's the point? So then after that, it's like, our story is really unique. We're Mexican American, and, we relate to the Mexican culture, and we relate to the American culture too. And it's been a big part of our marketing. Our packaging is really different than, other packaging in the tequila industry. We use illustrations for each release that we do, and it's super expensive to do, because, we're paying an artist, but not only that, we're paying for plates, for gold foil on the label itself, and for this and that, just to make this happen. So we had to figure out, all right, hey, how are we going to pitch ourselves? What makes us different? Because there's a lot of players in the game, man, and if you're not different, you're not standing out, and it's going to be a rough ride. So that's how we started. We started only in 2 states. As of today, we're in 30 states, and we're going to keep it moving. So good part is there's been a lot of interest from distributors. Because we're a little bit different, man. I feel like we're trailblazers in some ways in the tequila industry, because we come from the beer world, and we're very embedded in innovation, and we try to kind of bring a freshness to what's out there. So we come up with a lot of LTOs, limited time offerings, of good quality tequila that is just a little bit different.
Yep. No, it's awesome. Yeah. And the one you did with the amburana finish bottle, the amburana finish ones are really cool. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. The bottle's beautiful. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about it. So one of these days I'm going to find a bottle. I'll be honest with you. I live in Georgia and it's a little hard to find. I have a good number of stores in a radius around me of about 15 miles. I have not found a Lost Lore. I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going tomorrow to go buy some, but I've looked at, I'm like, hey, do you guys have a Lost Lore? They're like, no, we don't have it. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this brand is there. I'm like, how do you guys not know them? And then I'm pulling up your Instagram and I'm like, look. And like, oh, we have to get some. Like, would you get some in, please? So I'm a little bit more accessible to it. So I that's why I ask a lot of the questions, because it's not like something that you see on the shelves every single place, right? So again, that takes time and effort on your side to make sure that it gets out there. And I assume too, with that, and when you guys started, social media is a big kind of piece to that puzzle for you guys. What does that look like for you guys, and how do you guys lean into that to kind of help to grow the brand even more?
Yeah, I think a personal connection is really important. We're telling a story and we're being authentic and real with ourselves. So, we're doing that, and we have a lot of people who reach out, and I'm the person who's fielding 100% of whatever messages we receive on social media, and that's important for me because if you put the effort and time in to reach out to me, then I can put the effort and time in to reply to you. So. I've developed a lot of relationships with the people that have reached out to us, and we developed a community, and we're all in this together. We're all here for tequila. We all love it, and we're here to support them too. So that's been huge for us. It's just developing that personal connection with every single person who is a fan with us. We try to do as much as possible for the people that support us, because that's what it's all about, man. And I feel like that's been a big part of kind of like our continual growth and just our support in general in the market.
That's cool. Yeah, the community aspect of this entire thing is really interesting, and it's really unique. I think it brings everybody together. I think us sharing our experiences, podcasts, posts on Instagram, wherever it might be. I think that's really cool. I think even like the big events that people go to, the tequila tastings, I missed a couple of them recently in Georgia, like Good Juice was here and other ones too. I think all those events are even key to help grow the spirit, the spirit industry for agave and the focus on agave even out more. So I'm glad that I'm glad social media is here, because I think it makes it more, it puts it more in front of our faces, and we understand the brand more. We can connect with you a lot easier, which you had mentioned, which back in the day, I don't know if that would have existed, I mean,
no, probably
back in the 80s and 90s.
Social media is a double-edged sword, right? Like I have 4 kids and 3 of them have cell phones, and I'm always fighting with them. Like, just get off the phone, stop doom scrolling. But I think that's kind of like sometimes the bad part of it. And I find myself doing it all the time too, when I can't go to sleep, I'm over there, just keep going, trying to find something funny, let me fall asleep. But no, the great thing about social media is the community and, the outreach that you're able to do. And, when we go to events, we'll have people come up to me, and like, I'll know, their handle, man. It's like, that's what it is. Sometimes I don't know what their name is, it's like, okay, well, I know this agave nerd, whatever it may be, and may not know his first name. That's always a challenge, because, that's how I'm seeing them, is someone reaching out on social media and their handle. But yeah, man, it's great for community, and, we work it as much as possible, because it's what it's all about.
That's awesome. No, it's great. I'm glad it's there, because it just makes it easy for me to interact with people, share things, and vice versa. So I think it's really cool. One more question about you, and then we'll dive into a couple other topics. If someone only had 60 seconds to understand who you are and not the brand, so what makes up Arturo, what story would you tell them?
Family, man. It's all about family for me. I have a very loving, supporting wife, and I have 4 kids, 3 girls, and my youngest is a little guy. He's 5 years old, and
Cool.
and my parents, and like, this is all for them. So it gives me a lot of motivation to get through some tough times, because it's not easy. And running the business is always hard. I don't care if you're selling ice cream, or if you're a stockbroker, whatever it may be. There's always challenges. So I think that for me, it's just really family focused and oriented.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've got 3 kids myself, all high schoolers, which, woof, thank goodness they're great kids. But no, I understand the family aspect of it, and I'm the same way, right? I think I would answer very similar to you, is that without them, right, there'd be this gap and hole in my life as well. So I think that family aspect and making this about about your more about you, right, and what that family means to you, I think that's really important. So and it's always at front and center in your mind, right? Every decision then you make is like, what's my family going to think? How's it going to impact my family? What is it? How's it going to benefit my? Yeah, so it's really cool. That's really awesome. Yeah. Mad respect for that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate that. I'm happy that I was brought up with those values, because that comes from my family, my parents, and they both come from big families. My dad is like 1 of 10, my mom, same thing. And
wow,
it's great, man. That's for sure. Like, what our focus is and what my focus is. That's
really cool. Very cool. All right, let me ask you a little bit about the name Lost Lore. So the name Lost Lore is poetic and mysterious, I feel. Was there an actual lost story, recipe, or moment in your family's past that like sparked the name? How did that come about?
Yeah, so the whole name Lost Lore, what it translates to is lost tradition. And this was a distilling tradition that was started by my great grandfather. And I felt like when my father came to the United States, he came for opportunity, and that tradition was lost. So that's kind of where our name comes from. And, he didn't stick with it. At that time, it's not like what it is today. At that time they were struggling just to kind of sell tequila, and, they would do a lot of crop rotation, because, sometimes agaves would sell, sometimes it wouldn't. Anyways, crop rotation is good for the fields, but it just really wasn't that great of a business for them back then. So my dad came to do something else. He came for opportunity. So that's where the name comes from.
No, it's cool. That's really cool. I love the connect, like everything about what you're talking about connects family and the name of the tequila. Like that's really cool. You can tell you definitely lean into that, and it's important to you, and it's written on a bottle that you guys believe in and sell with quality product in it too. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. And a lot of brands are heritage forward and innovation forward. I feel that you guys are both. How are you walking the line between honoring the past, but like rewriting the future, right? And making a story for yourself and your family now?
Sure. Yeah. I always want to respect tequila. It's a spirit that should be respected. It's been around for a long time. And, we feel like we do that with our core, and even with some of the limited time offerings that we come out with. Our core is Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, and I feel like they're very traditional. Our Blanco is very agave forward with, really, really good highlights of minerality. Reposado is still agave forward. That's got some notes of oak and vanilla. And the Añejo is very similar to that, with maybe a little bit more of a caramel element, maybe more of like a dessert creme brulee profile. So like, I feel like, those are kind of like more traditional. But then again, man, I'm Mexican American, I grew up in the United States, and, I'm from the beer business. And, I think that's where kind of like more of the innovation comes from. In the beer world, we're coming out with beers every 2 weeks or so, pretty often. And, these beers are really focused around process and ingredients. And, with tequila, there's 3 ingredients, right? Agave, water, yeast. But you can change those 3 ingredients a little bit. With the agave, we're only able to use one agave. It's the Blue Weber agave, but, we can play with maturity. We can play with piña cuts, and, we could do a long shave. We could do a short shave. the cooking of it, with the process. Right now we cook in traditional stone brick ovens for 50 hours. What if we change that and we cook for 60 hours, 70 hours? Maybe we cook a little bit less. So there's just kind of like all these permutations with the ingredients that we could adjust slightly, with the process that we could adjust slightly, so that we could come up with different unique profiles. And, I think that's kind of like what's really separated us in the market is, we work with a great master distiller in Sergio Cruz. And Sergio, he's a maverick, man. I tell everyone in the industry that he's a maverick because, he's not afraid to take chances. They're calculated chances, but he takes chances. And he's taking chances on me because there's a lot of times where I come up with, these ideas where, they sound a little crazy. When we started aging in stout barrels, I mean, it's insane. It's something that never been done in tequila industry, as far as I know. So he took a chance on it, and it was a really good profile that we came out with in our Rested series. So yeah, we're excited, man. We have the traditional stuff, but at the same time, we're really pushing innovation.
No, the innovation side's cool. So I'm going to lean into the Dram Amateur part of this podcast here for a minute, because you just said something that I had never heard before, and I have to ask so I know. I did not know there was different cuts. I didn't know there was a short cut and a long cut. What does that do to the final product? Why the difference? How does that impact it?
Yeah. So when you do your Pina shade, you're able to do a short cut or a long cut, and the shortcuts, they're a little bit more, and it depends on what agave you have. But like for us, we're using Highland agave. You're going to focus more on kind of like, let's say, the citrus flavors and the floral aromas and stuff like that. The vegetal part of it, the minerality, it changes a little bit because you kind of took off that green matter. So for our profile, we leave a little bit of a longer cut. We feel like it adds kind of like a little bit of a vegetal character to our profile, more minerality. So we leave it just a little bit longer.
That's cool. I've heard that. Thank you for teaching me that, because I had first time I've ever heard that before. So that's cool, and that's why I'm called the Dram Amateur, because I'm always constantly learning and trying to.
Yeah, dude, we can all learn. Yeah, I'm still learning.
That's awesome. That's great. I've heard nothing but fantastic things about your high proof blancos. So I know that's like it only comes out like I think once. Is it once a year? It only comes out that you guys release it.
So, that's what the initial idea was, is to come out with it once a year. We came out with it last year. We have not come out with it this year. I don't know if it's going to release this year. It may be next year when we release it again. But, our whole idea is to kind of bring back, the tequilas that, we could feel that we can replicate year to year for the limited time offering. And so, we feel like that one we could replicate. Where we have issues replicating stuff, I think becomes in the barrel age stuff, because each barrel is completely different. And, some barrels are going to give, a little bit more of the barrel character, and some are not. And, we're blending a lot of this anyways, but, there's some variance there. So, when we did our amburana release, it sold out pretty quick. We did not too many of them. It was probably like 2,000 bottles or so. And, it was sold by the time it came to the States with our distributors, but it sold really well in accounts pretty quick. So, that's been one of those where everyone's asking, hey, when's the next one coming out? When's the next one coming out? And I don't think there's going to be a next one, because we want to be as consistent as possible with our product. And I don't know if we can get that one as consistent as we have. I mean, we have all the notes for it and everything, but, even if you try to keep it as consistent, production wise, it just may not come out like that, because amburana is a very unique wood to work with. It's got some great cinnamon and baking spice notes. And it's really strong. It's not like an American oak barrel where, you could let an agave spirit sit in there for years. Amburana's strong, man. Like, you pull out a lot of characters within 30 days. What we had to do for ours is we had to check the tequila every 3 days and see how it was changing along the way. So we ended up leaving, probably on wood, I would say maybe close to 40 days. So, we have all those details there, but yeah, it's all about consistency, man. So, maybe we'll think about it, but as of right now, it's probably not going to come out again.
So if you find it, everybody go snag it if it's anywhere, because you might not see it again. And yeah, amburana is really unique for sure, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So I can understand how something that sensitive from a wood perspective and like how the flavors, like you said you guys were there 40 days, 20 days might impact it as well. So there might be a lot of impact to the wood there with the amburana. I heard the Hoven's coming out, or the Hoven just came out. I've heard nothing but the hype behind it's like huge. So like I'm excited to see that. How's that been for you guys?
It's been great. We wanted, Hovens are tough, man. It's a blend between a Blanco and an aged expression. So ours is Blanco and Reposado. And, I really leaned into Sergio Cruz for this one because, he's our master distiller and he's just really good at what he does. So, I let him just kind of pick the percentages of everything and, kind of just crafting this whole profile. And, it came out really good, and it's really unique in multiple ways. I think what's great about it is, it's higher ABV to start off with. So it's 46%. But on top of that, you get some characters with the Hoven that you wouldn't get with the two tequilas separate, which I found really, really unique. So like our Blanco, it's agave forward and it's got minerality to it, a little bit of citrus. And when it comes to our Reposado, it's agave forward and it's got some oak and it's got some vanilla in there. But like when you put them together, it came out with like a really, really earthy character. And, when I was writing the notes for it and kind of going through my tasting wheel, what I pulled out of it was leather, earthiness and leather and, wet cement, those characters. And, those are characters that you necessarily get with any of those tequila. But once they're blended, it was something completely different and completely new.
That's really cool. I've only had one other Hoven in my life. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is on the fine list. Like we got it goes on the list. And I'm like, all right, every single time I go out, I need to go try to find it or look online or something like that. So yeah, definitely excited to see that. And like I said, hearing nothing but great things about it. So kudos to you guys for that.
Thanks, man. And it's a collector's item because it's got Sergio Cruz's face on it. So, we wanted to make a tribute to Sergio Cruz. Like, Lost Lore is what it is, in big part because of Sergio Cruz. He's an amazing master distiller, and we appreciate him. Very kind, comes from a great family. So, like, we wanted to put his face on this bottle. So, we really typically don't do that. That's kind of like one of the first ones. It's maybe going to start kind of, a series of maybe people being on our bottles, but, we wanted Sergio Cruz to be on there for sure.
Yeah, it's beautifully done, man. You guys did a great job with it for sure. Absolutely. Let's talk about what's happening behind the scenes right now at Lost Lore that you guys maybe haven't talked about publicly yet. Maybe some special agings or something like that. If you can drop a little tidbit or a hint. If you can't, that's cool too. But if you can, that'd be awesome.
No, for sure, man. For sure. No, we have different series out there, and our Rested series is kind of like our connection to the beer world and to whiskey producers and bourbon producers. So we have some more of those coming out. We have one with KCBC Brewing. So we have stout barrel, and we put our Reposado in their stout barrel. So that'll be releasing. Probably early next year. And then KCBC, not brewing, but distilling, we got some of their barrels too. So, we're aging Reposado right now. And yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see, what that comes out because they make amazing whiskey bourbon. Just do a really good job and focus on quality. We had another one with Phase 3 out of Chicago. That's in a stout barrel. And we have some triple sec barrels too, which I'm kind of excited about. So that's going to be a collaboration actually with a hip hop artist. I can't say who it is yet, but
NDA.
Yeah. And then we have another collaboration that's going to be coming out, and you'll be the first to hear that one. But it's actually with a AEW wrestler. Cool. I love wrestling. I grew up, the Attitude Era for WWF, and
yep.
I still watch a little bit of wrestling till this day. And there's a wrestler out there who is really passionate about tequila. So we're going to collaborate and have something really cool coming out for him soon. Apart from that, man, we have some other barrel age projects where we felt like amburana was a risk, but it came out well. And we have some other ones that we're testing right now that, we'll see what it tastes like. So, we have more, maybe one limited repo coming out next year. That'll be kind of like an exotic wood. So we'll see how that comes out. So, cool. That and a bunch of other stuff.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing. No, that's great. How much, I really appreciate that. Like, I would assume, and just my own curiosity, I would assume for every good experiment you have one that's equally not as good. Is that accurate, or do you find? Yeah. Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah.
It's been tough, man, because like we're doing stuff that's not really being done too much right now. Like the stout barrel ones are always my thorn in the side, but I like them when they're done well. But it's like, you have beer, and beer is not like tequila, right? Like tequila, high ABV, nothing grows on it. But like beer, if you let beer sit out, like it'll spoil, like all weird stuff will get attached to it. So, we have to be very careful with our barrels, the stout barrels specifically, because, we have to make sure that they're, very tight. What we do is we fill them up with CO2, and we try to get them down to Mexico as soon as possible. So the planning part of it is very difficult, but when it's done right, it really brings out a very interesting character in tequila.
That's really cool. Are you a big stout guy? Because you've mentioned stout a few times. Is that your favorite, or do you have other favorites as well from a beer perspective?
I just love beer in general. I love the whole alcohol industry. I love bourbon. I love whiskey. I'm just a degenerate, I guess. But I like beer, man. I'm a big IPA fan. I would say, if I go to a brewery, which I do often, I'll probably get 3 IPAs and finish off with a lager.
That's cool. Have you been to? So I've always been told, and maybe we're going to go on a beer journey right here for a minute. I've always been told that Treehouse Brewing in Massachusetts is like the creme de la creme of breweries. Have you been yet?
Yeah. So I've had many Treehouse beers, but I have never been. I've seen their facility pictures, and it looks beautiful. But yeah, they're all about hazy IPA, and I think that they're probably best at doing in the whole country. So, maybe one year when we open up in that state, and maybe we go visit the state, and we'll be able to go over there. But yeah, Treehouse is doing some amazing things.
Yeah, I wish they distributed more, because I don't have the opportunity to go get it. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I'll go home and visit. And my friend was like, "Let's go to Treehouse." I'm like, "Is it really that close to where you live?" I'm like, "I grew up in your backyard." I'm like, "I had no idea." She's like, "Yeah, it's like 20 minutes away." And I was like, "Holy crap!" So yeah, I got to go and had a hazy IPA. Oh my gosh, literally so life changing. I mean, I'd sit there and be like, it's fantastic. And like you said, like the brewery itself is just absolutely fantastic. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. It's pretty cool. So
they figured out how to pack as much hop aroma and flavor into beer as possible, which I love. So yeah, I do like hazy IPA.
Yeah, me too. Big fan of those for sure. If you were to create like the ultimate Lost Lore like tasting room, so not just a bar, but like an immersive experience where everybody comes together. Think about that kind of treehouse experience, right? Everybody comes together. What would you have to include in that experience to make sure that you make it honest to your brand, but also make it, attractive to your consumers as well?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that, coming from the beer industry, like tap rooms are so important and liquid lips are very important. And, it's been something that you don't see over here in the US, like a tap room for tequila, but you do see it over there in Mexico. Like Ocho opened up a beautiful, not a tap room necessarily, but a restaurant on site, that's focused on Tequila Ocho and, some of their other brands. But I think that just kind of visiting those and, if we were to do something over here, I think experiences are really important. And the experience of, going to Jalisco, going to Arandas and what that experience is of visiting and trying different tequila, going to the distillery. I think I would really revolve it around that, just creating the most unique experience that you can get, the best experience you can get outside of going to Arandas.
That's really cool. Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I imagine an experience with agave fields and, like tasting rooms and maybe food and all that stuff. I think it's really cool. Yeah. It's really, really
It's
cool.
Beautiful, man. It's so nice over there. Every time I go, I feel like I transport to like a different world.
Really?
It's like it's you get into Guadalajara and as soon as you get to Guadalajara, it's a beautiful city. It's a very, action-packed, a lot of movement. But then you start going into the highlands and you get to Arandas and you start going up in elevation and you drive in, you start seeing all these beautiful agave fields and you get further into town and Arandas isn't very big at all, and it's not like tequila where it's got a huge industry as far as tourism goes. It's pretty small and quaint, which makes it really beautiful. It's very unique. So, you go to the distillery and, you get to just smell agave. Like, all right, agave is cooking and you get to see the process and you get to see everyone splitting the piñas, taking cogollo out, cooking it, going through roller mills or using tahona, fermentation. That smell is really great. And then, distillation, that smells even better. So, just trying to incorporate, as much as of the ingredients and process into something that would just crush.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's one of those experiences that I hope to have because just starting with bourbon, jumping into rum and now agave spirits, like for me, like going to Jack Daniel's, for example, like one of my favorite ones, relatively close to where I'm at and been there 3 or 4 times. But like you said, the whole entire process, the smells from all of it, right? From start to finish, it's just a very unique experience. And the way they walk you through that tour, it's literally from, hey, we burn these pallets down or these pieces of wood down to char. Cool? And then we go through the entire process. Same thing for tequila, dude. That'd be awesome. I always see people like the roasting in the ovens, the tahona crushing. Like I see people like chewing the cooked agave too and everything. I'm like, that's gotta be cool as hell. To see that.
Well, let's go, Jason. I'm ready when you are, man.
I'm down, man. I'm down.
We'll go over there and we'll do some education and then we'll party a little bit.
I'm down with that, man. I'm totally down with that.
Yeah. Sergio is always great to hang around with because he brings out some fun stuff, some different expressions. Like it's really, really cool and fun hanging out with him.
That's cool. He sounds like an amazing guy. He sounds like an entrepreneur, but he sounds like very future focused, but wants to keep the history in the past as well. He seems like he fits really, really well into what you guys want to do with Lost Lore for sure.
Yeah. Yep. No, he's great. I mean, we're very appreciative of him, and we're lucky to have him on our team for sure.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right, let's talk about the road ahead for you guys. So 10 years from now, if someone uncorks a bottle of Lost Lore, what do you hope they say or feel when they take that first sip?
Quality. I'll focus on quality. So, the day our quality goes sideways, there will not be a Lost Lore. So we're always focused on quality. So, when we started this whole project, my father had a certain profile in mind. and that profile was agave forward, and the profile was mineral forward too, because they were getting their agaves from the valley. So where Huitzila is, it's not too far away from tequila. The dirt's completely different, terroir is very different. So I would say quality for sure. And that's the beautiful thing about this. It's like it's timeless. It's like a good, well-made tequila. And it doesn't change and shouldn't change. What we're experiencing right now is really a renaissance in tequila, and we're tasting some of the best tequila right now, and it's ever been in time. But this is stuff that would have tasted 100 years ago, 150 years ago. So yeah, I really want someone who's trying a tequila 5 years, 10 years, 50 years from now, just saying, hey, wow, this is really high quality juice.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it's been interesting to me to learn. You mentioned the terroir thing, you mentioned earlier too, like the age of the agave. Like, it's been really interesting for me to learn the impacts to all of that. I've had batch product from brands that, like, the age of the agave and one and another one, the flavor profiles are completely different. The how much rain that might have happened that season. Like, it's really, really cool how all of that impacts the final product and what it tastes like as well. So it's really, it's very interesting when you get to the nerd part of it, which I absolutely love and respect. It's really cool to see all that.
For sure. Yeah. And it's great, man. Like, tequila is like no other spirit. Like, we're dealing with an ingredient that takes a long time to grow. Like, our agaves are sitting in the ground for, at least half a decade, 6 years, 7 years sometimes. When it comes to other spirits, and with all respect, you get grain, every year. You get grapes, for brandy or any type of fruit brandy, you're getting to harvest every year. But yeah, agave is a little different, man. To do it the right way, I always feel everything starts with the agave. If you don't have a good agave, there's no point in doing anything else. So, our agaves, they're the sweetest agaves that you can have. We're looking for brick levels. So our bricks have to be, 35 plus. So, we see some that go into the 40s, and those are really, really, really sweet agaves. And, just for context, let's say a mass produced tequila. And again, this is not to down talk any type of tequila, because I appreciate them all. But, they may use an agave that has 12 bricks, somewhere in the teens. So, our agaves are, double, in terms of, or a little bit more in terms of sweetness, than a mass produced tequila.
That's cool. When you talk about bricks for the audience, what do you mean by that? What is that when you're looking at agave? What is that?
Yep. So bricks is kind of like a measure of sugar, of sucrose. So, we're looking for a bricks level that's high, a sugar level that's high. So, again, we're 35, 40, almost 3 times sweeter than a mass produced, agave that's used. And that's what we want, because we believe that's going to translate to a really high quality tequila. And, when you drink ours, it's not really, 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 sharp and burning. It shouldn't be like that, because, we use agaves that are really sweet. So that sweetness really, really comes out in our profile.
Yep. No, it's good. Thanks for that. Helps my audiences to understand more about it. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Anytime, man.
All right, we got about 10 minutes left. Let's get to some fun questions. So, if Lost Lore was a mythical creature, what would it be and why?
A griffin.
I love it.
And the reason I say that is because when I was in high school, that was my mascot. So why not?
That's awesome.
Yeah, we were, when I was in high school, we were one big school that had 2 campuses, and
wow,
the schools got too big, so they decided to split the schools. We were originally the Knights, so when we went to, it was supposed to be okay. The students choose a name, right? And there was like all these names, like the Lions, and whatever football team name that's out there, and one of them was Griffin, and I was like, I'm not picking that. But when we figured out that was going to be the name, at first I was like, well, this sucks. This is weird. But then you start like learning more behind like the mythical creature and what a griffin is, and it's like, wow, this is cool, man. This is really cool. So yeah, I would definitely pick Griffin.
That's cool. That's cool. I love it. All right. You're stranded on a desert island and can bring only one Lost Lore expression, one piece of music, and one food. Sorry, that's probably maybe really hard for you. Maybe it's not. What are you packing? What are you packing if you're stranded there for a while?
Man, this is such a great question because this is there could be a lot of options out there, especially the food part. I like to eat, so
You and me both, man.
But
You and me both.
I would say for tequila expression, um, you know, probably high proof or still strain Blanco. So still strain Blanco is right at 55% ABV, and so it's got a ton of sweetness to it. Higher ABV is always nice. So I would say still strain Blanco. As far as music, man, I love so many different genres of music.
Yeah.
I'm Mexican American, so I listen to like so many different things, and I'm a big metalhead. I love metal, and I really like thrash metal. So bands like Municipal Waste, even like the old school thrash guys, the Big Four, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, those guys. But as I get older, like my music, I still like that stuff. I'm a big hip hop fan. I like a lot of, stuff from, the South, 3-6 Mafia stuff, a lot of stuff from Atlanta too. Even the newer stuff like Future. But as I get older, I just like to chill, have a couple beers, have some tequila, and listen to corridos, man. So I would say probably Tigres del Norte.
Okay.
Love them. I could just sit there and listen to them all night.
That's
Them,
awesome.
Chavino Sanchez, those dudes, Los Originales de San Juan. Like, I think that's what I'd pick. And as far as food, this is the hard part again, man. I like to eat. I'm a bigger dude, so I like to chow down. I just think you can't go wrong with tacos, man. I just eat tacos every day. I love it.
You'd fit in well here too. It's funny. Like we're the same way. It's like, okay, what are we having for dinner? Oh, we're going to have cilantro lime chicken tacos. What are we having for dinner? Oh, we're going to have steak tacos. So what are we having? Oh yeah. My house is the same way. I think we eat tacos at least probably 2 to 3 times a week in this house.
I love it, man. There's so many variations you can do with tacos, and
it is.
You can do the high end tacos where you go to a fancy restaurant and they sell them in sets of 3, and it's $25 or whatever it is. But I'm like a street taco dude. I like, I was born and raised in Chicago, but like I live in Phoenix now, and as soon as the sun goes down, you'll see 100 taco stands come up. And I have yet to have a bad taco at a taco stand. I just like little small taco, a little bit of meat, cilantro, onions. I'll crush like 10 of those.
Yep. That's the way. When I go to Mexico City, it's a lot like that too. Like I remember we've gone to so many different places in Mexico City, but like the last time we went, we had lamb, we had shrimp, we had chicken, we had beef. I think we had pork, we had cow tongue, I think as well. And like you said, right, it just comes all out in like a family style, and all of us then start digging around, going and grabbing everything. And man, so small little taco shells, man, onions and cilantro. I'm in my happy place. I must have ate 100 of them. I swear, it was amazing. It's just like you're just like more. Give me more. Give me more. So it's great.
We have to do a podcast on tacos. I think.
Yeah, I'm down.
Talk about that for an hour.
Sign me up. Sign me up. All right. Let's see what we got time wise. All right, we're good. What's the most bizarre or unexpected thing someone's ever said after trying your tequila?
Man, I've been getting this a lot, but it's like, can I work for you?
I love that.
It's, and I'm flattered, man.
That's appreciation.
People want to work for me because, we're a small tequila brand. We're not like, the Proximo and the Jose Cuervo that's got hundreds, thousands of workers or whatever it is. We're a pretty small team, and our team here in the U.S. is 5 people. That's it.
Wow.
And that includes myself. So, that's our direct team with Lost Lore. Of course, we have a lot of partnerships in different states, and we're starting to kind of build our brand ambassador program and stuff like that. But I'm always flattered. I think what we're doing is pretty unique and exciting, and that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like they're excited about the brand, and they see that we're going into a really cool direction. So I would say that's the craziest but very flattering thing that happens from time to time.
That is really cool. No, that's really, really cool to hear that. I can imagine. And yeah, they must lift you right up. Like, hey, I'm doing something right. Let's keep doing what we're doing,
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. And last question. If you could age tequila in any non-traditional container just for fun, no limits, what would you do? Surfboard, volcanic rock? Like, what would you do to give it a try?
So all right, here goes the rules of the CRT. The CRT.
Can we take the CRT out of it?
we go back and forth all the time. Again, what are you doing now? So, I really, really, really like Brazilian woods. And we again we've gotten in trouble for some of this stuff. But we did a jackfruit one that just came out really, really unique. That was a collaboration with Long Island Loom.
Yep.
But there's a wood that I tried out recently. It's called like Hunju Muju or something like that, and it's got like an unbelievable jammy taste to it, like nerds almost. It's like red nerds. So I'm gonna figure it out one of these days. I don't know when, but. I want to age tequila in that because it's kind of like the other stuff that we use with amburana and jackfruit, even where these are strong woods, man. They don't need to sit in there that long. So, maybe we do something to add kind of like a jammy character to reposado. I think that'd crush, man. It was just bring a different dynamic, a different element to tequila, which would, I think, work really well.
That's really cool. No, it's awesome. Yeah, I love the experiment. I love what I love. I appreciate with you. It's like you have this. You're not afraid to try something. You're creative. And I'm not creative. This is the most creative you're getting out of me. So
it's really creative. Yeah.
It's cool to hear you talk about that stuff because I would have never talked. I never would have thought a stout thing, right? I would have literally never thought amburana when it came to tequila, jackfruit, all these other things you're talking about. I really like the creativity there because you're pushing boundaries and pushing limits and trying things that haven't been out there in the market. And I think that then you're a pioneer with that too, right? And who knows what that might and how that influences, right? Like you said, every good one has a bad one. But I think if you guys keep experimenting like that, I think you're going to keep bringing people to the table and saying, hey, what's this? Let's try it. Let's see what that is. So congrats on being innovative and being really kind of daring with that as well. I like it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah. I think I'm an innovative person. So, I'm the balloon and Sarah is the string to my balloon. She's the one who yanks me back down all the time. So, which is good because, we'd probably go out of business if I did all the crazy shit that I wanted to do. So, yeah, man, I appreciate that. And, I appreciate the time today. Again, man, what you're doing is amazing. I think that education is really important in, the craft spirits world, and I was happy to kind of, hopefully educate some of the people who listen to this. I know that you have some amazing people listening to the podcast, and yeah, man, this is really fun. So thank you so much, Jason. I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Tell everybody where they can find you. Go ahead and plug away, man. Go for it.
Yeah, so I am very active in social media, specifically Instagram. So, Lost Lore Tequila, that's where we're at. So, I would say after that, it's probably Facebook. And, we do have a TikTok account that's for all the cool kids, but I haven't figured it out yet. I'm trying to figure it out, but haven't figured it out yet. So, we have some videos here and there, but we're on TikTok too, but all Lost Lore Tequila. And, of course, our website, which is lostloretequila.com. So, you can find some cool information there, about ingredients, process, and, my story too. And you can see the states that we're distributed at and and things along those lines. So yeah, man, it's I think that covers probably the majority of the places that you can find us at, over there in social media and the website. But yeah, hopefully we're able to, expand a little bit more into some other stuff too, to communicate more.
No, that's awesome. Well, I wish nothing but the best for you, man. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Been an honor to get to connect with you and get to learn about your story. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Dram Amateur Podcast. A huge thank you to Arturo for joining the podcast, and to all of you for tuning in, sipping along, and being part of this amazing community. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment and like, share, and leave a review. It helps us grow and reach more spirit levels like you. You can also follow me on Instagram at Dram_amateur for updates, behind the scenes content, and more. Your support means the world to me, and I can't wait to keep sharing this journey with you. So until next time, remember, life's too short for bad pours, so make every dram count. Cheers. Thank you for tuning into the Dram Amateur Podcast. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of spirits. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. I certainly appreciate all the feedback and support. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes as we continue our exploration of bourbon, whiskey, rum, tequila, mezcal, and beyond. Cheers, and until next time, keep savoring every sip.